2, 1. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Veterans to Success. This is where I get the privilege to interview and speak with ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff. And today I've got no other than very own Otis McGregor. Otis, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Great to be here, Joe, and great to finally wrap this into a bow so we can get together and talk.
Yeah, I know we've had some challenges, haven't we, that stopped us from getting together. But just like any guy, any ex-military guy, we just improvise, adapt, and overcome, and just get over it, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And,
Right,
and like you said earlier, we knew this would happen. We just didn't know when.
yeah, of course. And so you know the drill. There's no big fanfare for the common man or common woman. We just dive straight in and we do a steady reveal as we go along. And you share as much or as little as you want to. Of course, if I think it's only a little bit and there's much more, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper if that's okay with you.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Smart. So, do you know, I know your story, right? And I think it's awesome. The fact is, though, the guys listening don't know the story. So I want you to take us back to the time when you were a little fella, right? And not really knowing anything much about the world and what was going on. And just fill me in on the situation at home and what was going on as a young lad.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough, great mom and dad bringing me up, a great type family, who believed in being outdoors and playing sports and camping and all those sort of things growing up. So I was a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, followed in my dad's footsteps of Eagle Scout. Got the experience of living and doing things outside throughout my life and playing sports. And really, the Boy Scouts and playing the Boy Scouts got me in love with doing things outside and knowing that it's a great place to be and there's nothing to be afraid of out in the woods. And then playing sports got me to understand teamwork and why having others around you and being part of a team is so important to our success in life. So yeah, I was very fortunate. And one other little thing I think would be the third leg of the stool that influenced me is I lived in the shadow of an Air Force base called Carswell Air Force Base, where B-52s would take off every day. This was during the Cold
Right,
War,
okay.
with the mission to drop nuclear weapons on the Soviet Union, and they left the base, and I'd see them every day flying over. And Dad told me, who, by the way, the other, I guess, a side piece to that is that Dad worked at that facility building fighter jets, designing and building fighter jets, and those things all influenced me to want to serve my nation, and that's where that origin really came from.
Yeah, and I mean that's a big influence because I remember when we did a tour over in America near Seattle, and like when we tipped up, we were just I remember just driving onto the base. You had Burger King, McDonald's, PX, like all sorts, and then just this massive air base in the middle, just with the firepower was just unbelievable. And I just looked at it and I thought, wow. So yeah, it can really get to you, can't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and you think, as a little kid looking up, and because you hear them. I mean, they're already probably 10, 20,000 feet in the air, but they're
Yeah.
so big and so loud. You would look up, and because you'd hear it, and you'd look up, and there they are. There's 4 or 5 of them
Yeah.
every single day, making those flights nonstop. I mean, just amazing to see that.
And that would be what back in what 80s roundabout
Yeah, back in the late
70s, 80s.
70s.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I remember at the time we had the Cold War full on because I joined in 81. and
Mm.
Germany, and they were interesting times, certainly.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, I don't think people really walked around afraid of it, but it
No,
was definitely in that mix of, you know, any day, you know, growing up in Texas, you have tornado drills and nuclear holocaust drills, and you did the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing in both, you know.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
that you'd survive the second one.
No, there was this. So I know when we did our nuclear chemical biological training, like there was nothing going on. The,
No.
the biological chemical, maybe nuclear, you just say goodbye, really. There was not much of a immediate action drill you could do there, except just say goodbye.
Oh my God. You're making me laugh at just the memories of you would lay down flat with your helmet facing towards it, like your helmet was going
Yeah.
to be some sort of deflection of the nuclear blast. You
Yeah.
know, that
Like
good old fuel
yeah.
pot.
Yeah, your skid lid would just save you from the nuclear blast. It would just go off at a 30-degree angle. Yeah, like that's not going to
But
happen,
I'll
is
but I'll
it?
be damned if we didn't get good at rehearsing that though, didn't we?
Yeah, oh yeah, I could do that in my sleep. Get the respirator on within 9 seconds. Oh, that's it. Goodbye.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Or gas mask if you don't know what a respirator is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when was it then that looking at these B-52s and your dad was obviously an influence as well because he worked there every day. Um, when was it that you got the urge to just say, yeah, let's go for it?
It was in high school. So my ninth year of schooling. I guess in Europe they call that time frame usually like college. I think
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
would refer
yeah.
to it. So I still remember, and I've told the story many times too. Going into Dad's office one day and saying his office at home,
Yeah.
and Dad was probably soldering a radio together or something because that's what Dad did, and saying, "Hey, Dad, I want to join the Air Force and be a pilot. I want to be a fighter pilot, fly those planes that you're designing."
Yeah.
And Dad told me, he gave me the harsh reality of wearing glasses, that you can't be a pilot if you wear glasses, and
Yeah.
said you don't want to. He also told me you don't want to be in the Air Force if you're not a pilot. I was like, okay, then I guess I'll figure out the Army, and that was it. I went to Texas A&M with the sole purpose of uh, joining the ROTC in the U.S. We call it Reserve Officer Training. So the short history of the longer history is the U.S. government in 1876 issued land grants to universities around, with each state that each state would create an agricultural and mechanical college in their state, to focus on agriculture and
Yeah.
mechanical. And within that college, they had to create a reserve officer training corps and to supplement the military academies, uh, which at the time was just West Point and Naval Academy. So that's where Texas A&M came from, and Texas
Ah.
A&M maintained that tradition for now 150 years or whatever the math is on that. So they have a core of cadets, 2,000 plus, I think it maybe 2,200 cadets now that wear a uniform to class and have formations every day, go to dining facilities together. They're all in the same dormitories together, and they have outfits and all guide-ons. It's like a small little military unit, and that was why I went to Texas A&M, was to become an officer in the Army. So
But
that
yeah.
was be part of that corps. Yeah.
And so how old were you when you tipped up at training then?
Let's see, 18 when I signed up for that. And just before my 19th birthday. So one of the things that ROTC allows you to do is you can also be in the National Guard and get some extra. I did it for extra cash and experience. So while I was training to become an officer, I enlisted in the Texas National Guard to get that experience of being a soldier before I became an officer. So I was a tank driver and then a long range reconnaissance scout for the 4 years, just shy of 4 years, that I was a cadet and an enlisted soldier until I received my commission into active duty as an engineer. So I had quite a background in those 4 years. I was a tank driver, and then a tank commander, and then I changed units and reclassified to a scout, basically doing not a normal scout, but more like a recce unit for the division, where we did long range reconnaissance missions. So more great experience about living off the land and in enemy territory.
Yeah.
And then received my commission in the Army Corps of Engineers.
And
So wide broth. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good to be with chatting to you as a fellow engineer, because I served in the Royal Engineers, so we're kindred spirits there. So pretty much, because when officers come straight from Sandhurst, they're wet behind the ears, like not sure what to do, and then they've got to start at the bottom. You'd already done 4 years, right? On reconnaissance, long range reconnaissance and driving tanks. And so how did that set you up as against your peer group with other officers who maybe hadn't had that training?
I don't think it really had any effect in that. I think it allowed me for more personal gratification, and I felt like I was a better leader for my men because I had a better understanding of what they had been through and what life was like for them. So because of that empathy, understanding, I knew I had a better way of leading because I could relate to it and knew that, hey, that's tough to be like that, or that's a tough thing to do, or I've been there and done that. And you know what, the BS you're trying to feed me right now is just BS. You can go do that. You can do that. Yeah, don't give me that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's what really helped me.
Yeah, and precisely because then you're able to gauge how difficult a task is and be able to put it into the schedule better, because whether someone is wanting to pull the wool over your eyes, as we say in the UK, to hoodwink you, I suppose, or whether they're actually saying, it is a bit difficult. So that probably meant that you could schedule in stuff a lot better as well.
Yeah, I think I've always thought it was a tool to help me lead better through that experience. Because it gave me greater insight to the larger army too, and what life is like there. And just having those experiences, not that guys are trying to hoodwink me or any of those sort of things, but it just helps you communicate better too. Because really, one of the things when you talk about leadership is, as a leader, you have to set the vision and sell the vision. And the only way to sell the vision is to communicate. People were asking me just last week, how to lead Gen Z, how to lead Gen X, and it's like leadership's the same. Leadership has been the same, will always be the same. I mean, go back thousands and thousands of years to, the first tribal leaders. Leadership is leadership. But the communication is what you have to change. And that's where leadership, the skill set, communication, the art.
Yeah, and
So
the truth never changes, does it? Uh,
no,
that
no, it doesn't.
Of course, as you touched on, the delivery or the method of delivery may change,
Mm,
because to understand all the technology now and how simple or difficult it can be may change the delivery. But the fact is that the truth's the truth.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your military career and what sort of challenges and successes you faced and where you were, because I know you have an interesting career. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, the first thing is that I did not want to be an engineer. Yes, I was studying engineering, but that was just to get a degree so I could go into the Army. I did not want to be an engineer. That was my fourth choice. All I ever wanted to be while I was driving a tank and being a long range reconnaissance scout was be an infantry officer.
Right.
And the Army did not need me to be an infantry officer. So that was the first hurdle, was coming to terms with, you don't get what you want, you get what the Army needs.
Yeah.
And so I became an engineer. And then I
But
discovered that,
by the way, being an engineer, you're very fortunate, actually.
oh, believe me, no, all joking aside, I do not regret that at all. I think it made me a better special operations officer, a better Green
Yeah,
Beret,
yeah, yeah.
because infantry, I mean, God, it's not that hard, right? Infantry is super easy. Believe me, I've been there, done that. I know that. Engineering, being an engineer and knowing how to do all these sort of things, from road work to vertical construction to blowing up a bridge. I mean, you name it, to building the bridge,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those sort of things. I had to learn all that. And then I became a special operations. I volunteered to become a Green Beret. And again, that broader experience that I gained. Because I did skip this one thing in the American Army. It literally says, as part of the engineer mission, is to perform duties as an infantryman. It
Mm.
literally says that is the secondary mission of every engineer in the U.S. Army. You do your engineering job, and by the way, you can be redesignated by your command to become an infantry platoon, not an engineer platoon. It
That's it.
literally says that.
Yeah, because that's the same. Our phase one training is infantry. Phase two
Mm-hmm.
is field engineering, and then phase three we get trained as an artisan trade, plumber and pipe fitter, electrician, all of that stuff. But our primary role is an infantryman or woman.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So exactly the
yeah,
same.
yeah. So while I was an engineer in the beautiful Arctic environment of Alaska, I got to do lots of things. Not many people have built ice bridges. I've built ice bridges.
Ah, nice.
Uh, yeah, built roads in the Arctic mountains, all kinds of crazy experiences with extreme cold environments and isolation there. And that's where I volunteered for special operations to become a Green Beret.
Right.
And
And what year was that you decided to do that?
I think I raised my hand in '93 and started my special operations training. No, I raised my hand in like '91, '92.
Right.
Started the training in '93.
So that was
Uh,
when Iraq was kicking off then, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the first one,
Yeah.
right? And
It,
yeah, and that's what brought me or got me assigned to the 10th Special Forces Group, which is the originals, we like to refer to it as, because it was the first Special Forces Group established in Germany initially in 1952.
yeah.
And one, yeah, so they were, and those men, my heritage in that unit goes back to guys that were doing the special ops operations in Berlin, called Det A. A lot of this stuff's become unclassified now. There's some amazing stories of what these guys did back in the day, and the operations and reconnaissance that they did. And that's what brought us out here to Colorado, the new home of the 10th Special Forces Group. And I got to do some really cool stuff as operations team leader, operational detachment alpha team leader with operations with my Polish brothers, the Grom, in Haiti.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I got to do a classified operation into northern France, ironically, which was really weird. Bouncing out of one of your bases there in the UK to enter and do some classified training there and operations in Bosnia. And yeah, I mean, I the amount I did some really crappy stuff, but the amount of cool stuff far outweighed it. 6 weeks training in Norway.
Oh, that's
Doing
cool. Yeah.
yeah, winter warfare training with the Norwegians. Uh, that was an unbelievable
Yeah,
experience there.
they're a tough bunch.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember we were I forget it was in West Germany, and we got based an American base because you're in the Cold War in the 80s, right? You know
Mhm.
yourself. There was lots of stuff going on, and there was some dummy sites and some real sites. And the Americans you guys were mixing and matching it. Some places did have nuclear warheads in, and some didn't. And we were put on a site guard for 14 days. No, I think it was longer than that. Actually, about at least 14 days. Wow, and we were running around from morning to eve to dusk every day, just making sure that we were right for what was going on, because we just never knew with the Cold War at its height then. I think that people underestimate just how much we've been on the edge at various times throughout
Yeah.
history. Like when you're,
It was literally just a button push away.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like shortly after your special ops guys were set up in Berlin, I mean, you had the Cuban crisis, all of that stuff building up to that, and then you had stuff going on in the 70s, 80s. Looked like it was calming down, and I don't know about your defense budget now. Successive governments have run down our UK forces and the budgets, and now they recognise, well, interesting, because maybe we need to start investing a little bit again. And that's a whole new story.
Yeah.
So, or another story. So coming back to the special ops, you did your 6 weeks training in Norway. And obviously we never talk about operationally sensitive stuff on this podcast, because I'm not interested in that. We know what goes on, and the guys, other veterans who are listening, know what goes on. And like, if you're listening and you've not been in the military, well then that's something that you might never learn about. What I'm more interested in is, what sorts of challenges did you face, and how did you handle it, and what did you see with the guys you were leading as well, how they handled it?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge I faced was how to accomplish the mission with people that don't report to me. I had my team, and we had our mission, and 9 times out of 10, we didn't control the activity of our mission. We had the outcome. We knew what the outcome was
Yeah.
that we were directed to achieve. The
Yeah.
mission end state. But we were usually, for my experiences that I went through, I was working with organizations that didn't report to me. And my job and my team's job was to convince them to do what we needed them to do to accomplish the mission I had been assigned. It wasn't this, they weren't assigned the mission. I was assigned the mission. And
Yeah.
my job was to get them to do that, to have that meeting, to come to the table, to build something, to train and get better at something so that we didn't have to do it. All that, and that was pretty much my entire Special Forces career as a Green Beret, was to get somebody else to do the job so we didn't have to do it. I mean, I refer to it as the Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain's book, Tom Sawyer. Our job was to get you to whitewash the fence so that I don't have to whitewash the fence. Is
Yeah.
literally what Green Berets do. Is it's not a derogatory thing, and then the other aspect of it is I always looked at it as my job is to work myself out of a job. My job is to come teach you, mentor you, guide you, and set you up for success, and then walk away and watch you graduate and go on into the world and be successful. Much like a parent does, right? I mean, that's what parents do with their child. They teach, mentor, and guide them until a certain point and want them to go off and be a contribution to the world. Well, I look at, and you can look at all the nations that have joined NATO from the former Eastern Bloc, and you could tie some things back to some special operations training that happened in those days in the early 90s, right after the wall came down, that enabled those nations to become full members of NATO now, because it started with a 12-man Green Beret team going there and teaching them how to do a linear ambush, teaching them how to set up a non-commissioned officers academy, all these sort of things. It started at that grassroots, and that was where I spent my entire career, all the way up until I retired. Because even as a lieutenant colonel, shortly before I retired, I was doing the same thing at the Ministry of Defense level, teaching, mentoring, and showing them how to establish a capability within a special ops capability is where I was really focused, a special ops capability within their military, so that they could have that capability within NATO and within defense of their own nation, so that the U.S. didn't have to continue to put boots on the ground and do the job for them. We could supplement them and help them, but our job was to build that capability and capacity in our partner nations so that we didn't have to do it all. I mean, truthfully, that's the way I always talked about it. Is our job is to work ourselves out of a job, fellas. Then we have success.
And so many people get threatened by the fact that they want to be indispensable. Well, guess what? No one's indispensable, and I like you like to become dispensable, because then it means I've done my job. And like I always like the phrase that I heard: the definition of leadership is getting someone to do what they would not have done had I not been there.
Yeah.
And which is what you touched on before, and I just wanted to put that into words more succinctly.
And I'll share one other way that I've learned to frame it is, and this is a broader sense for everybody, is if you're not sharing what you know, what's up here, my experiences, my lessons, not just failures, but successes. If I'm not sharing those with others, I'm being a selfish son of a bitch. I mean, point blank, right? Right. And am I going to take all this to the grave and not help somebody else? What a waste. What an arrogant, because the people that do that are not confident in themselves. They're like, well, if I show you that, then you'll get better than me. You'll have more customers than me. Your business people. That's what I want. I want every one of my clients to blow my business out of the water. I want to help them succeed and just rocket to success. And look down at me and go, that was nice, Otis. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and then if they look your way and tip their cap towards you, I mean, that's great. And if they can put their success down to what we do, that's just Awesome. So, right, you make it to Lieutenant Colonel, you said,
Yes. Hmm.
which is a great position to be in, and you started as a tanky, right?
Yeah.
So how did the transition from the military go?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrific, but it wasn't, I was a lost puppy is really the way it was. I didn't know what I needed to do or wanted to do. Because in the military, we all have a very clear purpose: support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Right? I mean, it doesn't get much more clear than that. Well, you take the uniform off, you ain't got that anymore. That's one. Number two is you're also no longer on this tight knit team that is all focused on the same purpose. And for me, I thought all I needed to do was get a job and I'd be happy. And it took me a long time. It took me 7 years to figure out that that wasn't what I needed to do. What I needed to do was find my purpose, understand who I am, why I'm here. After taking the uniform off, what is driving me? What is fuel? What is my fuel? That's what your purpose is. Your purpose is the thing that gets you up in the morning, that puts you through, gets you out of bed, makes you go work out, makes you make those phone calls, those emails, because you want to fulfill it. Purpose is that thing that you can never have enough of. And it's the cup that never is full and never overflows. There's always more room to put your purpose in and to do your purpose, because it fuels you to achieve your vision. And when I figured that out, my purpose is to create a legacy of leaders, because great leaders create great organizations, and we have great organizations in our communities. We have better communities. When we have better communities around the world, we'll have a better world. That's the legacy that I'm creating through my purpose, helping others become great leaders, because that has a ripple effect all around them. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what's driving me. And it took me 7 years to figure that out. Some people figure it out earlier.
Yeah, and some people it takes a little bit longer as well. And the thing is, what I really love about chatting with veterans is our resilience. Because during that 7 years, I imagine that you probably woke up a few mornings thinking, what the flipping heck am I doing? So, and now what you say is, oh yeah, it wasn't that tough. I bet you if I took you back to one day during that 7 year transition when you weren't sure what you were doing, you'd lost purpose, you weren't in a team, you weren't in any uniform, maybe that would seem quite different. So that's why I talk about resilience and the way that actually we recognize after a while, well, if we keep going to this pity party, right, it's not going to do as much good. What else can we do? So it took you 7 years, right? And along that way, what did you discover? What were you doing? And when was it that the penny dropped?
Yeah, well, it was rugby. It was boys high school rugby. Those of you watching on video can see a ball over my shoulder.
Yeah.
And it was that was what became the whole thing that gave me clarity. Was after I'd become a head coach of a sport I'd never played before. I just became a student of the game and fell in love with it. I discovered that being a coach was what was really fueling me. It was helping, teaching, mentoring, and guiding others, in that case, boys high school rugby, helping them to not just become great rugby players, but also great young men going into our society. I realized that's what was driving me, and that's what I wanted to do. And I needed to follow that path and take that into the rest of the world and turn it into a business. And that's where I shifted out of the corporate lifestyle, if you will, and started to get into how do I build my own business to help more people become great leaders. And that's what we're doing with Tribe and Purpose.
And what was it that gave you that kick up the jacksie, as we say in the UK, kick up the backside to say, right, okay, let's do this? Because you got a bit of a family history with that as well, haven't you? How did that work and how did that go?
Yeah. Well, it was truthfully just a moment, a day, that afternoon, going back to what you said earlier, there was an afternoon where I felt sorry for myself and just wondered what the hell was wrong with me. And I started to analyze that.
Hmm.
And as I analyzed that, that's where I came to this realization that, damn, since leaving the Army, the only two things that have been consistent in my life is my family and rugby.
Hmm.
And that's a pretty sad case for an American to have rugby as your one thing of consistency, right?
I don't
So,
know. Yeah, I think it's pretty good personally. Yeah, well, yeah. Got you.
but I think it turned out okay, and I'm very thankful for it. So, you know, that act of being a coach is a powerful thing.
Hmm.
And back to what I was saying earlier, I'm sharing and giving to others to help them have more success. It's not
Yeah,
about my success. I get my success by helping others succeed. I'm
yeah,
not the one who wants, the pomp and circumstance of all that. Yeah, do I want to be on stage? Yeah, I want to be on stage, but you know why I want to be on stage and give keynotes? Because then I can influence more people. I can
yeah,
share with more people at once. It makes me more efficient,
yeah.
right? We can have one-on-ones and I can talk one-on-one and I can help that one person. But when I'm on stage in front of an audience, whether it's 10 or 100 or 300 people or more,
Yeah.
when I do that, then I can impact more people.
One to many.
That's hell.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you've done your TEDx stints as well. I mean, people can find you on TEDx. You've done other events, and I was talking before, like when I come over the pond to the States, I want to run events where organize events where I've got veterans on stage and veterans for veterans. So I think that's brilliant. So at times when you were coaching, and in the military, right? I talk about coaches and mentors. How important do you think having a good coach and or mentor is in any sort of development?
Oh, it's essential. I mean, it's ironic that we look at sports figures and we're all, man, this guy's so great. He's doing so great. And the only reason that sports figure is so great, yes, they have their God-given talent, but they've had coaches, specialty coaches, functional coaches, whatever it is, who have helped them. And I'm not talking about the halfback on Leinster or Gloucester or any of them,
Mm,
the head coach. I'm talking about that guy. In order for that guy to be at the level he's at and continue to be at the level he's at, he's got more than just that coach. I guarantee they have personal trainers, passing coaches, defensive coaches. They probably even have specialized halfback coaches, just like in America, you have
yeah,
quarterback coaches. It's that's how you get to that next level of success. If you want to grind it out and figure it out by yourself, you can. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. Go ahead. And I'm not diminishing that effort, but it's going to be harder and it's going to
mm,
take you longer, and you're going to miss a lot of things that you're going to go look back on game film and go, why do I keep doing that? Whereas if you had a coach that said, hey, let's sit this down. I was noticing there's what you keep doing. Every
yeah,
time that you're passing, you're under pressure from the right and you're trying to pass to the left, you're doing this thing with your feet that changes the angle of the ball.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's the sports analogy of it. It's no different in business. Hey, every time that you start looking at this one thing and you start to head down this path in this line of business and develop and start getting successful in this business, you always start drifting off. You
mm,
always start chasing these other things, and it's diminishing your ability to be successful in this one main effort area. that you said was the main effort, and you're demonstrating it's the main effort because it's being the most successful. But yet, this other thing, you know what? As an individual, you don't see it because you get self-focused and get the next thing done. And you need
Yeah, like
somebody who
you
can,
just tunnel vision and you can't see the
yeah.
wood for the trees. Yeah, exactly. And I see it so often. Yeah, so it's a common trait. With regards, so yeah, that's good. I mean, with regards to your position and what's brought you to where you are now, what sort of coaches and mentors have you had that have been memorable for you?
I've had a lot of mentors, fortunately, going back to, dad counts as the first one.
Yeah,
Taught me a lot, leadership there. And there's probably several other I can go into in the Boy Scouts. At the University of at Texas A&M University in the Corps of Cadets, I had a couple of upperclassmen. Uh, they were juniors when I was a freshman who gave me some great guidance about going into the military. They're actually the ones who said, "Hey, you should join the National Guard," and told me how to do that. And then going into the military, one of my first company commander in special forces, I loved him because he taught me that, hey, if you want to stand up to me, you can stand up to me, but you better have some reasons. And he accepted. He was the type of commander that would accept dissenting opinions, but you better have your shit together. And
yeah,
then when he tells you to sit down and shut the F up, you better
yeah,
sit down and shut the F up and move out smartly in the direction that he said to go.
yeah,
And that was great. And all the way up to uh, my I refer to him as my last true boss in the military, Admiral McRaven, who just watching him build trust in different organizations and influencing them to do things. Back to that, our whole job was to get somebody else to do something that they didn't know they should be doing, and learning how to do that and having that guidance and trust from him also in doing that. That was huge. Yeah. So those are just the military ones.
and Admiral McRaven, that's the guy, make your bed.
Yes.
Yeah, and,
Yep.
and and that is a great. You can find that on YouTube. Make your bed. It is really good, and actually, I covered a chapter on that in the Pathfinder. So I think that's so inspiring. So to have him as your mentor, gives yeah gives a good insight into what makes you tick, and all the other guys as well. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
and I think that people who reach the pinnacle in military career and have had good mentors and good coaches. And I think that's the same in business, which is what you concentrate on now, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
So
So
just before we move on to that, I want to touch also on networks, social networks, business networks. How critical do you think that is to success?
100% critical. Matter of fact, I wrote about that. I know when this show comes out, it won't be today's Monday Moments, but in the present tense of our recording, today's Monday Moments newsletter, I talk about that networking and how the fact that you need to get out from behind the desk, you need to go out and meet people and shake hands and talk to them. The you can do the advertisements, you can do the social media posts. Yes, that opens doors, but it's not until you establish that relationship in that networking by creating that network that you will have success. And we as humans have to have, I mean, yeah, can I, and I know you can too, go out and do an individual operation, go drop me off in the mountains for a while. Don't do that anymore too much, but used to, and be alone. And yeah, I can make do, I can make it and survive and thrive and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, as humans, we want to be part of something.
Yeah.
We want to be part of an organization. We want to feel that we are contributing to an organization. And that's, you know, it's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of
Yeah.
being part of something and giving it and seeing that I'm contributing to the success, the overall success of that organization. That's what the network is. That's what the tribe is. And it's also those people that I can count on when I need to. I can say, hey man, you got some time? Can we can you give me some advice? Heck, I did that this morning. I'm doing another call tomorrow morning where I've called up two of my friends who are very knowledgeable in an area I'm doing some other work in, and said, hey man, can I steal 15 minutes of your time to give me some advice on this? You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, it's interesting because before we logged on, I was chatting to someone, and I always like to get feedback because feedback's the food of champions, right?
mhm.
And she said at the end, she said, "Wow, I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought you were just wanted to sell to me, and yet you've given me so much information." And I said, look, it's not about selling, it's about sharing, and it's about contribution, because I believe that purpose, contribution, because we're social, aren't we? And if we can help each other get better results, that's fabulous. So, yeah, let's move to what your drive is now, because you mentioned about tribe and purpose.
Mhm.
So what's your mission now and how you do it?
Yeah. So our mission is my purpose, creating a legacy of leaders, and that's what we do at Tribe and Purpose and work towards every day. And we do that through 3 lines of service that we provide our clients and our tribe. The first one is the do-it-yourself. I know I'm that guy. You know, dryer broke the other day. I'm a do-it-yourself guy. Figure it out. So do it yourself. That is, listen to our podcast, read my newsletter, join us on our monthly master class. Those sort of things, all free, all things that we give to our tribe to help them become great leaders and fulfill our purpose. So that's number one. Number two is our done with you, and that's our leadership development system. The Tribe and Purpose leadership development system helps generate leaders from within your organization, people that are not in leadership roles that you see. You want to have a team of leaders because leaders take charge and have the initiative to solve problems themselves and work together and create more stronger functional teams. And that's our done with you. And then finally, our done for you is our fractional COO. And our fractional COOs help small business leaders, the CEO founder, break out of that day-to-day functions so that they can do what them and only them can do, which is sell their business. They are the best salesmen in the team. So when you, CEO founder, are bogged down in the day-to-day operations, you are spending time doing things that is preventing your business from growing. And when you have a fractional COO, we take that burden off of you and then assure that your business structure is set for effectiveness and efficiency, and the systems and processes that you have or help you implement new ones. And the most important thing, make sure that you are in control of the businesses, your team's culture, and you're intentional with that culture. So that allows you to grow that business to the next level of success.
Yeah, because and it's like sometimes when you're in a firefight, you can't see the wood for the trees. You don't know what's going on in the business sense, and there's so much noise that you just get lost, don't you? So what you do is take that hassle away on the done for you from the CEO and help him get there, which is absolutely fabulous. So, to your younger self, and if you were to give yourself one tip, and maybe a veteran or someone who's still in the military and wants to get better results, or maybe they're in business and are already getting there anyway and just want the extra bit, the extra mile, the stuff that when it hits the fan just gets you through it. What's the one tip that you give to someone?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. It really is. It's whether it's calling up somebody who's in your tribe that's been there, done that before, has experience, or hiring a coach, a consultant, somebody to help guide you. Man, if you want to get there, don't try to do it alone. Yeah, you can figure it out. You can put your head to the grind, your nose to the grindstone, go head down and figure it out. But why make it harder on yourself? Ask for help. Raise your hand and ask for help. I always joke about this when I'm talking with other special operators. Is like when we were on the teams, we always ask for help. Hey, dude, man, can you give me a hand? Hey, I can't figure this out. Have you done this before? We did that all the time. And we step away from that environment and we go, I'm a badass Green Beret. Figure this shit out. Been there, done that before. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. Arrogant SOB. Right? I mean, we always had, when I was on a special forces team, I had those 11 other guys that, hey, man, Bill, come over here and help me out on this, man. We got to figure this stuff out. Joe, come here. Randy, I don't understand how this thing functions. What can we do about that?
Yeah,
all the time.
Because I remember that we were moving forward the battle group, and engineers are first in, last out normally, and came down from command. Yeah, can you put this bridge in? Yeah, we can. The fact is, though, we don't want to while the enemy on the other side and they're shooting at us, and we've got our hands full with carrying bars and we've got no weapons. So said, right, put us infantry in as a bridgehead, give us artillery, cover in fire, and put special forces on the hill so we can see what the enemy's doing. And you know what? That was all done. We built the bridge, no losses. It was great. So, and that's like in business now, when you ask for help, that's great, because all you're doing is surrounding yourself with people who are good at what you're not.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I love this question because I think there's a lot of guys who, when they come out of the military, they don't see the skills that they learned, guys being men and women. And I use the role as mortar platoon. If you're a mortar man or woman and you think, how can I use that on Civvy Street? They don't need mortars in Civvy Street. We're talking, and that's why you're smiling, because we're talking about the skills that are learned. How transferable and valuable do you think the skills are in the military to take into Civvy Street and be a success?
Oh, 100%. Everything from problem identification to problem solution planning to execution to follow through to continuous improvement. The only thing, and this is what I tell everybody that I've mentored in this sense, the only thing that you need to learn as a non-military person is how to control capital, how to do a P&L, because particularly in my world, I lived with a blank check. If I needed it, we got it. We just asked.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything that all you got to do is learn how to translate it. That's it. The processes and the systems that were taught to us in the military are 100% transferable into any situation. The skill comes back to, or the art comes back to the how do I communicate it. It's no different than me teaching and learning a linear ambush at Fort Benning, now Fort Moore, Georgia, the school for infantry, and then taking that skills that I learned there and translating it into Lithuanian. And how do I teach this to a Lithuanian unit? It's no different. How do I take this military decision-making processes, mission analysis, the course of action development, the 5-paragraph field order, all these sort of things that the military teaches us and has been proven as highly successful and effective because people's lives are on the line, and translate that into the speak I need in the industry and the business that I'm in. That's the hard part. And you can't be an arrogant SOB and do it and be one of those guys that, always talks in military terms, because all you do is ostracize people. They just look at you like, we're not in the Army here in this Acme brick company, right? You know that.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to translate. I mean, I've done it time and time again. I did it in one of my first roles after the Army at Lockheed Martin. I did it when I taught a master's level course for Fairleigh Dickinson University on planning and program development. I taught the military decision-making process translated into civilian speak. It goes back to like you were talking about leadership earlier. Leadership's leadership. The fundamentals will exist and will always exist. The skills and things that you learn from crisis management to stress to working hard, being effective, and having attention to detail, and all these things that you learned in the military translate into the civilian world. You just got to learn the language to speak it in.
Yeah, exactly, because it is about language. Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So, what does the future hold for you now?
It is continuing to help more people have more success, creating more leaders. And our main effort is helping those small business CEOs realize that if they want their business to continue to grow and be successful, they need to get out of the weeds. They need to ask for help, hire a fractional COO, whether it's a tribe and purpose one, which I would say are probably really, really good. Whether it's a tribe and purpose fractional COO or some other means, because there's no better salesman in your team than you. And you, CEO founder, want your business to grow, you need to get your head out of the weeds and start looking up and out.
Definitely. So how can people get in touch with you? And by the way, give a plug for your website, your podcast, which, by the way, I featured on, and it was absolutely fantastic being your guest. So give me a plug for the different ways that people can get in touch.
Yeah. So 2 websites. One, Tribe and Purpose, tribe-purpose.com. And that's going to give you the overall concept of what Tribe and Purpose is, what we do. The other one is 10xyourteam.net. And I mentioned earlier the DIY of the podcast and the master classes and things like that. That is where you can find that. More information about our leadership development system and more information about our fractional COOs. So that is 10xyourteam.net. And you can also, I can tell you, back to the DIY, go to our YouTube channel. That's 10x Your Team with Cam and Otis. That's our podcast, and it's our YouTube channel. And you'll see all my whiskey words are there. Our master classes are there. Our podcasts are there. That's where you could find Joe's episode. Not good enough to remember the episode number, Joe. But that's where you can find all that information. Subscribe to us there so you get those updates when the next Whiskey Words comes out or the next master class live. I do those live monthly, so you'll see that on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Lots of ways to get in touch with us and stay in touch with us. So it's 10xyourteam.net is one website, and then the other one is tribe-purpose.com.
Thank you. That's brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your time today, Otis. You're a star.
It's quite a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. And before I go, just remember you can find out loads about what sort of things go on and get links to the podcast as well on joeteams.com. So until we meet again and for the next episode, have a brilliant day. Thank you.